lanternfly, the Chinese spotted lanternfly. There's a few over in this neck of the woods here on, I guess, where are we, 15th-ish? Where are we, 16th, and Ransdad area. And I haven't seen any in a long time. Of course, Philadelphia was swamped with them back in 2020, like 1920, or 2019, 2020, and 2021, I guess. But they're rare to find these days. Also, during the same time period, they had the Japanese hornet wasps, or whatever they were called. So it was an interesting time period. Of course, the lanternflies are harmless, other than having proliferated so much that they crowded entryways to people's storefronts or homes, and they had to be cleaned out. And they had this whole thing, like a campaign of stomp the lanternfly, and people would walk around the street and just like get really excited about stomping on the lanternfly. And I was like, that's dumb, because I have a totally different mindset. If there's one or two lanternflies just walking on the sidewalk, then leave it alone. Like, why do we need to hate the lanternfly? I love the lanternflies. These are beautiful insects that, through no fault of their own, they wound up in Philadelphia. You know, like, they're indigenous of somewhere in China. Somehow they wound up here from some jackass who probably like sent them over on a barge or something, you know. But I don't know how they wound up here in mass the way that they did. But I'm just saying, it got really weird to see people overzealously stomping on lanternflies that were just walking on the sidewalk alone, not in like a large group or anything. And I was like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I felt sorry for the lanternflies. Just, they're like, we don't know where, we wound up in a big city. We have no freaking idea what we're supposed to do, and people are just killing us off, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's the saga of the spotted lanternfly. And then we saw people wearing outfits that resembled, like it would have red under like a sheer whitish, you know, like women would wear these blouses that look like a spotted lanternfly. It became a little joke or what have you. But anyway, in the same area, I saw a bird, almost as if he had a prize. I kept hearing him scrape, 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 scrape. And at first I was like, maybe it looks like he has a twig, like he wants to make a nest. And then I realized, like, as I sort of stepped further on the sidewalk, like towards the street for a second, I was almost going to cross the street, I realized he dragged out this dragonfly. Dragonflies aren't that common here. They're more indigenous of swampy areas, Florida. So to see them here, and I've seen them on this street, it's like kind of like, okay, where'd the dragonflies come from? Anyway, almost like a prize, this bird was like trying to show that he had a dragonfly, and he was pecking away at the body of the dragonfly. So, but then someone came by who wasn't paying attention and like walked right in front of the bird, and the bird scampered off behind. Then I was trying to catch the bird on camera with a short, so then he scampered behind the fencing there where I was, you know, in the vicinity of where the lanternfly and the bird and the dragonfly all met for a rendezvous. So I'm just sort of making that up a little bit, but a lot of insects over there apparently in that area congregate. I don't know why, but anyway, that's the story of the spotted lanternfly, the bird, and the dragonfly. And then of course the Japanese hornets, murder hornets, that's right, I forgot. Japanese murder hornets popped up in Florida at some of their state park, like, I guess they were state parks. I don't know what you call them, just like parks that, parks that you go into, you know, just, I guess they're like little state parks or whatever. And in one of them, near Devil's Hopper, Mill Hopper, Devils, whatever, they had signage that said, this area roped off because there's a hive of Japanese murder hornets. And I was like, ugh, like, wouldn't they go beyond the rope? Like, like, how do you know you're not going to get in the way of a Japanese? I don't know if they felt like they were kind of confined to a certain section of that state park. Anyway, but I thought it was interesting that they had Japanese lanternflies, or I'm sorry, Japanese murder hornets, Chinese lanternflies, and God knows what else, you know, flying around, dragonflies, and the whole 9 yards. So people can be puppeted. So like, say you go to a baseball game and everyone's screaming, yelling. Technically, there are populations that see people at baseball games as puppeted. You go to a game and every puppet in the world is doing the same stupid stuff, dancing all over the stadium. And they can, you know, people can be forced to say or do things or speak out. So whenever you see or hear something like that, just know there are actual uncool people who govern regions, and they can force people to behave or act a certain way, and they don't even know. You don't even have to be on drugs. There are totally healthy people who totally flip out or say certain things, and it's the fault of spoiled governors, if you will, for lack of a better word, of a city or a town. It can be like a button or a trigger, and you can kind of like trigger someone into that mode. So I just want you to know, like, I feel sorry for anyone who is affected by these people. The evil people take advantage of the vulnerable, and they keep driving them down. You'd be surprised who winds up down. You have some of the smartest, best human beings who could all of a sudden, you know, flip out on the streets, and some of the worst human beings who appear to be in control. I just can't wait till they flip the switch on those self-righteous asswipes until they flip out, and then we get to point at them. So I will wait just like everyone else. And I'll keep reporting the self-righteous ones to the CIA, Homeland Security, FBI, local police, and so forth and so on, until we can get one of the self-righteous to flip out. That would be totally awesome. Get some popcorn for that. So we will check out these cars. Also, there was another woman over by the bus shelter who was turning. She had like a yoga-like outfit on or similar. She just assumed she was like showing me where to go, as if I would go back to my building. So I purposely came this way. Also, Gold Horn. That's what I wanted to remember what this was. Gold Horn Electrical Construction, District Council 47, Marine Layer, across from Apple, the Apple Store. 1600 Walnut, 1600 anything is potentially associated with the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You never know. We do have a white Mustang in front of 1600. Faherty reminds me of Anne Marie Fahey, who was killed by Thomas Capano in Delaware during the 80s, I believe. That was a big story in Delaware. I grew up in Delaware. So